What has happened to youth sports?
Because there's definitely been a lot of changes because the kids are bigger, faster, and stronger than what they've ever been. Some have thousands of followers watching their every last move.
But this is not how things are supposed to be, because youth sports has always been about getting your kids out the house and just overall having fun and just being active. And as time has gone on, it's become less and less about the youth and more about what can somebody gain from this area. And this type of thinking has only led to more and more problems. These are things like shady practices by coaches, manipulation, faster burnout, and unfortunately this is pushing more and more kids away from the game. And the reason I'm making this video is because over the last year, I would say I've noticed this way too much. There was when I was taking my brother to like his football practices and I was noticing like certain behaviors, or just looking on social media and looking how this generation's overall moving, I just realized that there's just a problem. Like there's just a problem that needs to be talked about. Because when we sit here and we question what happened to certain kids, especially prodigies, like let's just say they're some of the top ranked recruits in their class, and then we look back on them years later and then we think, what happened to them? There's a reason why a certain thing or they panned out a certain way, because it was already right there. It's just a modern way we just do youth sports.
One of the first things I simply want to talk about is the coaching.
All right. And when I speak about coaching, I'm not talking about a coach that actually does his job, makes adjustments, or puts you in certain positions maybe you don't want to be, but the team needs, or maybe that is going to actually make you better. Like there's a difference between that and like an actual bad coach. And just because you're not getting the amount of playing time that you want, or you may not be competing, does not mean they are a bad coach right off the rip. I want to make that very clear. And honestly, I really can't blame people for thinking like this, because the main problem with a bad coach is simply they're very, very hard to spot sometimes. And this is because they know how to use their leverage as a coach. Because a lot of them like to hide behind the idea of hard work, and they use that to mask bad coaching.
And the reason why they're going out of their way to obtain an image, or just go out of their way not to even be a good coach or take the time to actually put in the effort, is because simply they're not doing it for the actual reasons a coach should be a coach. And it's because they want to have the image of being a top tier coach. So in the process, they end up taking advantage of a lot of athletes and a lot of parents.
Because they know in a lot of situations, if not all situations, that a player will be desperate to complete a certain goal, whether it's going D1, whether it's getting a lot of playing time and getting highlights, that they'll do practically almost anything to get there sometimes.
And it's also no different with the parents. When it comes to certain things like AAU track, AAU basketball, or club soccer, I'm telling you, it gets incredibly bad when they start to realize that they can scam certain things like money. But I'll go over that more later in the video because it will make a lot more sense, because it will be better for that segment. And this is sad to see, because a coach is really supposed to be more than a dude that just helps you get better at a sport. Because they're supposed to be a mentor, a leader, a person when you face adversity inside a sport, that they can turn that into a life lesson that you're going to use throughout the rest of your life and tackle certain challenges. Yeah, and the next section is going to be about pricing. And don't get me wrong, pricing has always been a factor when it comes to certain things like youth sports, but the thing is, reasonable prices are now becoming unreasonable, and people simply are not willing to go over that threshold. Because why somebody gotta take out a whole entire student loan just to put their kid into a sport? And I remember a specific instance when I was talking to my dad after I dropped my brother off at his football practice, and we got to the point where we were talking about pricing of certain things, and I remember he brought up the fact that the pads alone, just the helmet and the shoulder pads, and also, no, I think the girdle included with the, padded pants, costed like $350. And right then and there, I was just absolutely just surprised. Because for me, when I joined the high school football team, because I never did play youth, just for the summer program alone, it was only like $85, and that's not including the cleats. The cleats are completely separate, but it was $85 just for just to join the program, and you already had that stuff given to you. And you think with that type of pricing, the advantage from high school to youth is hey, they get to keep the pads and we don't. But the thing is, they still had to return the pads. And to give you perspective, this is the same program that's affiliated and promoted by the school. It's the same program where you go from elementary school to middle school to high school. And if you go to another source like AAU or club-based sports, they're a lot more expensive. Because let's just say you want to go see a family member or, your kid play at an AAU basketball game. For you to enter and see your kid play or that person play is going to be $25 to $35 for a one-time purchase of the ticket. And since you want to see your kid play on that circuit, because they got multiple different games throughout the day, you decide to go with the weekend pass instead, because it's going to save you a lot more money. The price of that weekend pass can come out to anywhere from $75 to $125. And for anybody doubting, I'm going to show you a video real quick.
The price for a basketball, so many families can't afford to watch their own kids play.
AAU basketball is such a scam because why did we just pay $80 for weekend passes to watch our son, there he is over there somewhere, play 4 games?
And the thing is, I haven't even factored in travel teams yet, because all the expenses like hotels, food, the flight is going to absolutely rip your pockets apart. You will be fighting for your life. And this goes for every sport, whether it's softball, basketball, soccer, track and field, swimming. Like, there's always going to be some sort of tournaments of this nature. And for most people that have an average salary, they just aren't willing to put all these costs into sports. And we just start to get a situation where we see kids of mainly a wealthy background, you know, playing youth sports. And I did make a video about this kind of like a year ago, specifically about how basketball is kind of becoming a more wealthier sport. So if you're kind of interested in this whole entire segment of the video, like, you can go all the way back there, or maybe I might link it somewhere so that you can watch it. But the reason why youth sports are so expensive is because this is a $40 billion industry. And this is because the main people that play sports are kids. And once people start to realize they can profit off it, we start to get people like those bad coaches that they don't really care about coaching. They just mainly care about making a profit.
Now, for the last section, this is going to be about having the wrong goal for sports. Because a lot of parents and coaches prioritize the wrong things in youth sports. Because a lot of them tend to prioritize certain things like accolades and stats. But when you start to prioritize things like 25-point games and over character development, that's when we start to see some problems. If you're a coach or a parent, yes, you should be encouraging your kid to be the best player possible. But at the same time, we should also be pushing things like good sportsmanship as well. Because skills like those are going to be things that you can transfer throughout your life and are going to benefit you. Because there should be no reason why your kid is in a Java Red or special ops celly on the court. Because even though it may be cute or funny at first, down the road, it's just going to lead to bad character development. And also, we need to stop putting so much pressure on our kids to be successful in the sport. Because that's one of the main reasons why a lot of kids, they just stop playing sports. Because a lot of them don't feel like they can live up to the expectations that their parents and coaches have for them. And that's just a lot of pressure to put on kids sometimes.
Yes, parents and coaches still can't have goals for kids when they are athletes, because that's one of the reasons why you play sports. But just make sure when you're pushing your kids towards those type of goals that you're also pushing them towards the sport and not away from the sport. The reason why this section is so important is because this can shape the type of person the kid will become.
Because when you sign a kid up for a sport, they're not only learning how to play the sport, they're learning skills like how to work together with a group, perseverance, hard work, how to have good character when things may not be in your favor. And when they get a little bit older, in some situations, they'll learn like time management. And obviously the same can be said for negative traits. Because if a lot of these negative traits go unchecked, they just start to build and build and build until they become worse, especially when a player is good. That's the situation in a lot of cases where we see it at its full, like, just whatever it is.
But regardless, that's just typically a situation you don't want your kid to be in, because by the time you typically do figure it out, it's like there definitely already is a lot of damage. Whether it's true like an inflated ego, or maybe just constantly comparing themselves to other people and just not feeling worthy, like, it definitely does affect kids in different ways. And my goal of this video is not to sit here and say that, oh, kids should not play youth sports, that youth sports is bad to the point where we should just halt it as an option completely. No, that's not what I'm trying to say here. It's the complete opposite. We still should be putting kids into youth sports, but we just got to do it a little bit differently. Simply putting kids into a sport is just not going to be enough. You got to see, like, what are the coaches about? Like, go talk to them, go talk to the parents that have kids inside the program and see what usually goes on inside there. You know, watch a couple practices and see, is this something you want your kid to continue overall? Do you want to, like, pull them out? You know what I mean? And also make sure that they actually want to do the sport. And there's nothing wrong with putting a kid inside sport even though they don't want to when they're young, because they don't know what the sport's like, and you never know, they might just end up liking it, and this might be one of their favorite things to do. But after a certain point, like 2 or 3 years, and especially after, like, I would say really just the first year, and they end up finishing out and they didn't like it, you know, just let them go. Just let them just be. Because just because you play the sport, or maybe you want them to be good at the sport, or maybe go to I don't know something like the league, does not mean they should keep playing the sport. But just overall, what I'm trying to say in this video is just simply just allow kids to have fun and just do the best research that you can into like local programs and make sure you're not putting them in a bad situation. And just don't put too many expectations on them, like, oh, you need to get a scholarship, you need to do this or that. But at the same time, while being, you know, somewhat hard on them and giving them, you know, kind of the structure just so they can become overall better and they can learn how to face certain challenges. All right, that concludes the video. Like, now that we're at the end, I really don't got too much more to say on this. And just yeah, though, like, subscribe. I got like a couple other videos you can kind of watch if you're liking the vibe, just saying, just help a brother out, need to pay the bills. And yeah, I don't really got too much to say because it's kind of getting dark out here, so I'll catch y'all later.